interviews on the John Donahue Show here. Right here we have Mr. and Mrs. Wyrsch. And I'd like to ask Mrs. Wyrsch. That thing's running.
Oh.
Just, what's your earliest recollection of the family? Now, of course, that would be your husband, but I guess the earliest one would be Louis. What was your reaction when he was born, being your first baby? You have to speak up to the camera.
He was late. He was late.
He was late. Was it hot during the time you had him?
No, he was born in
Well, you didn't have too hard a time with him? Was he a good baby?
Yes, he was.
I understand that was one of the earliest kidney operations.
Right. His doctor, and I take him up for checkup and call everybody in. This little baby was on that big long operating table, and I had to do something about it.
Oh.
He was really fascinated with that.
Sure was.
Do you remember that, Dad?
Yeah, he became a member of the American College of Surgeons because of that operation.
And it was one of the first operations?
On that smaller child.
He was only 8 months old.
Well, how did they discover that? Oh.
His kidneys rolled loose, came down in his head.
Oh, I see.
And at that time we had Dr. Clark, and he was starting in new, and he could take him for $250 a month per year for $25. And so in one of those monthly checkups, he found that pulled down. Which was lovely, but he could still be.
And it had actually pulled loose.
Oh yeah, it came from it. It's ordinarily up here in one of his blood.
It was a tumor. The top part of the kidney had developed normally, but the lower part was a big cyst, big watery cyst. The recommendation at first was that we give him x-ray treatments for 2 weeks. And if it was cancerous, it would shrink. But it didn't shrink in 2 weeks, and it actually became a little larger in 2 weeks' time. It's just a watery cyst.
And then Martha came along about, what year was that, 1940, 1941? 41.
1941. And she was really easy. All the girls were easy on the mother, but the boys were terrible.
Was she a good baby?
Oh, yeah.
Did you mean she slept all night?
Yeah. All of them, for that matter, after a few weeks, slept all night except ma'am. And
Tim had a little problem with his food.
Jim had a little problem.
yeah, food.
Because
Throw everything up, everything, no matter what we gave them, all the material, commercial products, and finally the telephone went out, and we couldn't get a hold of Spark because your dad was said, let's put them on there.
no work.
Yeah, fine.
So Martha and then Jim came along, and I guess Jim was one of the worst children you ever had. Is this correct?
No, they were all good children.
Well, didn't you read Dr. Spock for the first two, and on Jim you had to throw the book away?
We didn't even know anything about Dr. Spock, but when any of the children were born, he came along after Mary. Even Mary was. But there's another thing about Jim. Of course, when he first had food problem at first, and then later he developed a cough, and it seemed like every breath he took, he coughed. So none of the commercial cough medicines were doing any good. So Ben Federer would give me a pink bottle of scotch, and I had it upstairs in the medicine cabinet. And well, let's just try this. So took a tablespoon, poured it full of Scotch whiskey, and just put a lot of sugar in it, got it into solution. Gave that to him, and from the first tablespoon, his cough kind of let up a little bit, so I gave him several more tablespoons full, and it stopped altogether.
And he went to sleep, I'm sure.
He went to sleep.
And then that's when you were working for the Hutchins family at that time, wasn't it? 1941?
Yes.
And then I'm sure the war broke out about that time.
41. The Japs bombed Pearl Harbor December the 7th, 1941. And in January of 1942, the Congress declared war on both Germany and Japan because that was known as the Axis at that time.
Okay, then you had, then Peggy came along, what year? That was 1943 or 4?
Probably 44.
44 was Peggy. And that was your second red hair. Did she have red hair when she was born?
Well, I don't think she's bald-headed, but later on, she developed the red hair.
Oh, I see. Was she late, Mother?
Yeah, she was supposed to be born August 15th and arrived at 31st.
So she was a couple of weeks late.
Castor oil, bring it on.
They gave you castor oil to bring the baby on? That sounds like some fun. And then you had Ann. She's the one that, during some earlier interviews, everybody said she was always so innocent, but wasn't.
Right. She would get everybody in trouble, particularly Susan, and he just was sweet and innocent. She, when I put her in school, I said, now, you have, this, you sit with me. You have to watch that, and, oh, that sweet little, and I said, you watch it. And it wasn't 2 weeks, but she said, I see what you do. She'd go up and pinch baby and go on a or something. And they'd yell, and everybody was yelling at them, and it was Ann all the time. But otherwise.
Okay, she was born in 1945. And Susan was born in 46, wasn't it? They were a year and a month apart.
And this time my dad, the doctor's telling me I could never have any children. Because I had that RH negative test.
But it didn't show up until marriage.
Oh, it showed up before then.
Well, it was this RH negative thing that they discovered, I think.
That time you were born.
I
Yeah.
mean, I had the RH.
No, I did. And your dad had the positive, you're not supposed to have any children. So, Aunt Mary don't believe it, but they told me the same thing. All the Welsh girls had it. But either the strain diminished, so never did it test. Every time I go up to Dr. Johnson, and you really, I better be pregnant.
You'd be pregnant again. So let's see, Susan was born in what month? I keep forgetting all these birthdays. November. And well, that would have been cool. I mean, it would have been a cool time of the year. Peggy was the worst.
I mean, as far as the heat. Not the first baby for me, because, it was just real hot summer. Well, we didn't have air conditioning, even in attic fan. So it was a miserable summer. And she turned out fine.
That was 1946. Then you had a little lull there till 48 when I came along, and that wasn't a pleasant birth, was it? And you hemorrhaged, is that correct?
That's when they found out I had the water.
Yeah. And then, of course, myself, and then there was Nick. That was before 48, so it would have been 1950.
And Mary and,
Nick was a fun baby, wasn't
he was. He was
he was a lot of fun, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
I can remember him being a lot of fun.
Exceptionally good.
Then
Put
Mary
him down for a nap and he'd go to sleep and get him up and he just was always happy.
Yeah. Then Mary, let's see, it was 1957. So there was quite a lull between, that's 7 years later, wasn't it? brilliant arithmetic. We, let's see, on your side, Mother, your father was, of course, Thomas N. What did his middle initial stand for? Okay, so
That's why we named it that.
Thomas Nicholas, right. And he came from, was he second generation from Ireland or first?
He was first, I think he was born soon after his parents landed wherever in West Virginia.
They landed in West Virginia.
I don't know that they went, I don't know where they came from, he never really talked about Irish people, so I don't know where they landed in New York or what. They ended up in West Virginia.
I would say they came to Ellis Island.
Well, I guess back then.
That's where most of the immigrants came through.
From what I've read about it, so many of those people that had to go through Ellis Island didn't just had terrible experience and didn't want to talk about it. My mother ever talked about it.
Was it true that they changed the spelling instead of W-E-L-S-H to it used to be W-E-L-C-H?
Well, it used to be W-A-L.
Oh, Walsh.
Walsh.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
And
I haven't heard.
the Gaelic handwriting,
Did he ever confirm whether they came from Ireland or Scotland or Wales? They came from Ireland, your mother and father? And your mother was a Glenn, and where did she originate? St. Louis? That's where your mother and father met in Kansas City. Well, the Glenn family, where did they come from? Well, they came from Ireland, but she's second generation from Ireland. Well, I mean by second generation, did they come over from Ireland or did their parents come over from Ireland? About what year did they come over? Do you have any idea?
Marion had all, Catherine had all that history and so on. So I just don't know.
Well, I would say
I think they came in when the famine.
1849.
Yeah. Going on.
Pay a famine in Ireland.
There was 1 million Irish people in the United States at that time.
They settled in West Virginia and in St. Louis and eventually went to Kansas City and that's where they met. And then,
Well, her dad died when he disappeared. They never knew where he was.
her dad, it was in the Civil War when he disappeared.
Whether he was spy or what. And the mother took care of her mother and her brother. He worked for the time, I don't know what.
How did they come to Springfield?
Well, Dad came down here to work for Farmers Company Packing House. And then they were married and went to brought her mother here with her.
Now, Dad, the Breyer family, what area did they come from to get to Billings, Missouri?
Grandpa Breyer came from Darmstadt, Germany. Got that date upstairs. It was in 1860. Well, it was after the Civil War, right after the Civil War.
Was this Adam Breyer?
Adam Breyer, and he had a brother, Valentine Breyer. And he went. I'm sure he came through Ellis Island and he couldn't speak English and I don't think he could write too good and his papers that he's got, naturalization papers, does not spell like they wound up spelling it. Went to Ohio. His brother Valentine went to Chicago and started working as a soap maker, Procter, came to be Procter Gamble. Grandpa Breyer went to Ohio, and that's where he met grandmother Breyer. Her name was Elizabeth Arnold, and they were married in Ohio. And then there were, I don't know what he did in Ohio, what he worked at, but he got in touch with the Griezmer family down in Village, which they were settling that area down there with German people. And so the Griezmer family got the Breyer family then to come to Village, Missouri. First, Grandpa and Grandmother Breyer lived with the Griezmers until he could get the farm and build a house. And that's where my mother was born, Griezmer's home. Then they moved south, about 3 miles southwest of Village. A small farm, really, as farms go today. And they had a log house down there at first, before we built this frame house that they lived in for about a year.
And did Valentine come with him?
No, Valentine stayed in Chicago.
And how many children did Adam have?
Well, they had 8, and 9, one of them died.
And your mother eventually met your father in Springfield.
Well, what happened down there were a lot of girls, German girls, Irish girls, and many other girls that, they didn't, all they could do was housework and things like that. And so my mother and most of the mother of those women down there, girls down there, came to Springfield, and mother was the housekeeper for one of the prominent families here in Springfield. And that's where then they had the Germans were great on organization. And they had one organization called the Singer Bund. And that was a bunch of men that got together, and all they did was sing. There were some good voices in that old Singer Bund. And then they had another German organization, and they would dance, have dances, and that's where my mother met my father, one of these dances. And in 19...
Well, that was over on Boonville Street, wasn't it? Where they had the...
Germania Hall.
Germania Hall?
That, in those days, it's a picnic castle today.
On Boonville. Yeah. Boonville and Calhoun Street, isn't it? Let's see, that would have been around 1904, wasn't it?
4 or 5 long ago.
Is the story true that your grandmother got mad at your mother got mad at your grandmother about a spelling book or arithmetic book, moved to Springfield over that?
No, I don't remember that.
That's the story
I didn't know anything about it, huh?
That's the story Uncle Jack tells.
Yeah.
We'll have to get him down here.
Yeah, but don't freak me out on that. I don't know.
Well, where'd your father come from?
Well, he was born here in the United States. Grandfather Wyrsch, name was Robert Belcher. And he had a brother, and I didn't know this until a few years ago, named Pedersen.
Epsilon?
Absalom, A-B-S-O-L-O-M or something like that. And now he first settled up around Quincy, Illinois, and that's where he met my grandmother. And her name was Mary Ann Root. The Root family were in, the junk business, the scrap business up there, and rather prominent in the town and also in banking. And so they moved to Hannibal first. And how they came to Springfield, I don't know. I've never heard any stories of how or why they came to Springfield, Missouri. But grandfather Wyrsch then set up a furniture business over on Boonville Street, about where where the old Calvinata Works is today.
Almost to commercial street.
Almost commercial.
That's where we got that love.
The love seat that's in the living room now. That was in, y'all found that in the second floor of the garage on Irving Street, didn't you?
Well, when I was a little boy, that's all that furniture. When my grandfather died in 1999, and of course he had his home, and it was all furnished in the latest furniture, and that was part of it. And we used that furniture for a long, long time, and then of course, that type of furniture went out, and they were going to this big overstuffed stuff. I can remember the dining room chairs were thick cushions on them. They were upholstered dining room chairs. I wish we still had one of them. And it would really be a showpiece today.
Didn't they chop those all up for funerals?
Well, I don't remember about that. They probably did.
I heard that somewhere along the line. All this beautiful furniture. They needed firewood.
I remember what they call a horsehair couch. It was one of those leather-covered couches, and it came up like this. And of course, that leather deteriorates after many years. My grandfather, and so they say, used to come home at noon to take a nap. He'd eat lunch, take a nap on that couch.
Now, was this Robert Melchior that took the nap? And he's the one that had the furniture store?
Yeah.
Your father worked for the railroad, didn't he?
Yeah, he worked for the railroad. He was first the storekeeper up on the north side, and he couldn't get along with the superintendent, the boss, really. So he went out to the west shops and became foreman in the labor gang. And of course that's quite a few laborers in those days. And while he was working at that job, he got a piece of steel in his hand. And of course, these railroad doctors weren't the best in the world. So
Thermal battery
he wasn't treated properly
Thank you.
and developed blood poisoning. And first blood poisoning later developed into what the disease called lockjaw. And that's what caused his death.
That was in 1912.
1912.
When did your mother remarry?
Not till 1922.
And you went to live with Uncle Joe Breyer and Billings after that?
4 years before that.
4 years before what?
4 years.
Oh, I see. When you got remarried? Okay. What were some of the funniest things that happened to you when all of us were growing up that related to the children?
There were many of them. I don't recall any specific ones. Do you, Dee?
No, but I think one of the funniest things, we were playing bridge one night with John and Annabelle King, and there was a loud thump there, and Louis looked up and said, oh, I guess one fell out of bed. And they thought that was just really amazing, because they didn't jump up and run up. They didn't have any children at that time, and that was almost the night that currents does.
Somebody falling out of bed?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this one, standing up over there, nephew, used to crawl out of his bunk bed. He had sides on it, protect it from falling, and then go in and sleep with girls.
Slept with girls. Nick would?
Fell out of that bed and broke his collarbone, but he didn't say anything about it. Oh, it was at least 2 days later, and I noticed him going down the street on his bicycle, and that, first I ran off the hill and they could see mutton, and got a broken collarbone.
This interview Now we'll have to get the rest of the family in here to have some more interviews and have a rebuttal about all these allegations as to their actions of the previous years. Now we'll have a commercial message from our lawyer, brother, who needs the business. Go ahead. Okay, we didn't have the commercial message from Jim Wyrsch for his law practice because he wouldn't pay us. Therefore, he can't come on anymore until he pays. But to my right here, I have two members of the Wyrsch family. This is Martha Jane and Margaret Agnes, but she likes to be called Peggy. That's because at that time she would probably have been called Peggy, but there is no Saint Peggy, so she could not have been baptized. That's the reason we call her Margaret. And we won't make any snide remarks about her name or her name because Mother is sitting over here on our left.
Like Piggy Wiggy.
Named after her
What was that?
grandmother and great-grandmother.
She was named after her grandmother and great-grandmother, which she appreciates. You're well thought.
The best in kindergarten, and I am the original Miss Piggy. They dotted the E. I'm the original Miss Piggy.
Do you have any deep psychological problems from being
Yes, I
called
do.
Miss Piggy?
Yes, I do. I've always been very self-conscious about my nose.
Is that why you think that you were called Peggy or Miss Piggy because of your nose?
Well, that's what they call me.
Is that right?
It's really your grunt and how they type.
And you were relating to us earlier today some of the instances that happened to you when you were young. And who was the meanest person in the family to you?
The meanest person in the family?
Right.
Oh, they were all mean. They were all mean.
All 8 brothers and sisters
All
were
eight
mean.
brothers and sisters were real mean.
Tell her about the one you fought with his wife.
Not only was I original Miss Piggy, but I had all these deep psychological problems.
We have somebody in the audience that has a question. She said, she would like to know, who was it in the family that you fought with the most?
Oh, I don't remember anything like that. I was always real nice.
Who was that?
Oh, thank you, come on.
Who did she fight with the most?
Jim.
Jim. She fought with her brother Jim.
I didn't fight with Jim. I want this on the record. Are you listening?
Well,
Jim fought with me.
you were the recipient of the meanness.
I was the recipient of the meanness. Jim would come in and
When she was in her grad chair, Jim would walk underneath and she pulled his hair.
he probably
Is this
took,
right?
he probably took my Cheerios. After that, he'd say, "Come on, Peg."
Well, Martha, you were around at that time, I'm sure. You weren't married at that age.
No,
I think you were about
no,
like 5.
probably about 5.
Right. Anyway, did you know of this feud between Peggy and Jim?
Oh, I missed that somewhere along the line. I guess I really didn't know that. I don't remember her chasing him up the stairs and, oh, I do.
Well,
I was probably too young.
what Jim would do is say, "Let's play poker or something, or let's play cards or Monopoly," and then he'd cheat, and then he'd beat me, and then he'd go,
Oh.
and then I'd get mad, and then he'd beat me up. Of course, he was a lot bigger than I was. He must have been older.
Well, Martha, did you have the same feud with your brother Louis?
Oh, no, we got along well together, we really did.
How about Jim? Did you get along with Jim
Oh,
real well?
fantastic relationship, yes, especially because I cut his stupid toenail.
Well, we've heard you talk about this toenail business, and were you ever reimbursed for all the time that you took care of Jim?
No, and we really don't know why I was so stupid for so long.
Well, is there any bitterness towards your
No,
brother?
absolutely no bitterness, I just wonder why I did that for that many years.
Did he
You're
ever
a
say
real
thank
boy.
you, or was there any sister, brotherly type of affection shown?
Probably not. Not that I recall. So we sent her off to college, out of town, but she was good taking care of everybody younger than me. All she did go up there and meet Jim, Pedersen, get married in 2 years. Do you have your toenail? No. No.
Was
all
there
the
anybody
children-
was there anybody mean to you when you were young, Martha?
No, I was just so lovable. I mean,
So
I
lovable,
just,
so.
I just exuded all this love. I know. know that I
Mother
was,
said that you were born late. Maybe this had something to do
maybe
with it.
that was something to do with it. A little slow,
A
right?
little slow. Well, I didn't want to say
Slow.
that.
Yes. No,
Can you remember any of the more humorous things that happened to you when you were young? Even in high school?
there was so many. My favorite story I thought was very humorous was the time that Mom and Dad, we went through this divorce thing. Went to Kansas City to have a good time and left them in charge. And then someone was to come over in the evening, and I was upstairs taking a bath, and my wonderful sister Peg was going to make a little scratch cake. And she went in to heat the butter. And then, as she sometimes did, got involved with the soap opera on television, forgot the butter on high in the kitchen, and started the kitchen on fire.
Oh!
I'm sure I was on the phone to my boyfriend.
Oh,
You
you
know
know
I
her.
was on the phone.
This is the lady's boyfriend, but we want to clarify that.
So she did come up the steps, bringing all the smoke with her because it had not come up to the upper level yet. So she had a little problem in the kitchen.
She wanted you to handle the problem.
That's right, I was in charge, remember? So down we went. Call the fire department. Meantime, Mother and Dad call on the phone and want to know how things are going. And Peggy, of course, answered the phone and says, fine, except for this little problem in the kitchen. It's on fire. Mother says, what's the problem? Well, it's on fire.
And did Mother call back after Peggy hung up on her?
Yes, they were just a little upset. But we did get back with them after the fire department was here, yes. That was funny, though.
Peggy, do you have anything that you can add to that?
I felt real guilty about that for a long time, and I felt real bad. Until a couple of years later.
More deep psychological problems.
I'm the disturbed one at the same time. I'm just a kick out of it. No, I remember I felt real bad about that for a long time. So I heard my mother talking to somebody one day, and so she's kind of glad it happened because she needed it in the kitchen anyway. And I thought, well, gee.
You did her a favor then.
I did her a favor.
Nobody ever said thank you.
And nobody ever thanked me for setting fire to the kitchen.
And you're still bitter about that, and that adds to your deep psychological problem.
One more thing, we had to have all the clothes, remember we had that clothes closet there with
The clothes closet?
the kitchen.
Oh, that little pantry on there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all of that had to clean, and we were not in the financial state to have it cleaned, but we did. I don't know, probably borrowed the money.
Probably, yeah.
Well, we have to have Jim and Nick on here next. Is there anything you'd like to say
Before we
about it?
leave, we would like to know about your most humorous moment.
Well, I have a lot of very humorous moments. I don't know that I can
Like
recall all of
on
them.
camera or what? We were on the way, the ones where you climb up with.
Well, we've already gone through all those.
But it didn't show up on
It didn't
tape.
show up on tape. We want it on tape.
That's right, we want it on tape.
Well, I think we will probably go through all of that when Susan and Ann come up.
Oh, you would like to do that with me?
Because Ann or Susan seems to be very poignant about that fact. And of course, speaking about sneaking out, which is upstairs out here, and leaving and playing around all night, I met Susan, some of her friends, while I was out at that hour. And then she was going out the same door.
Actually, I think you better have Susan here to defend yourself when we go through that.
We will have her.
Won't we? Yes.
Yes. Well, this ends the interview with two of my sisters. Older sisters.
Slightly.
In this family, most people are older than I am. But we will have further interviews later, and if they would like to rebut anything that is said at a later date, or later hour, that would be fine. In interviews today, we have two brothers here, one red-headed and one other kind here.
What color?
Oh, Nick.
What color hair?
Well, we can't tell. But Nick, we'd like to interview you first today. We'd like to know if at one time you were born.
Yes, I was born.
Just
Don't ask me when.
You don't remember when you were born?
No.
Were you there?
I was there, but I don't remember, I was too young.
You were too young to remember?
That's right.
What's your first recollection of Jim, Nick?
Jim, when he came home from college one day, that's the first thing I remember about it. I haven't seen him in high school.
Never saw him?
I don't remember him ever coming home.
Was he nice to you?
Oh yeah, when he's home. Any other time, I guess he's on talking to everybody else about him. I don't know. I do remember seeing his picture in the paper. I did have evidence there is Jim at high school.
Did he ever loan you any money and you didn't pay it
No.
back?
No,
Or
he never
vice
loaned me his money. I asked him, he said, no, he doesn't have any money. Then he comes up to me and asks me for money.
Did you give it to him?
No. I just tell him the same thing he always told me. I don't have no money.
Well, you learned from your older brother.
I always learn from experience older men.
Well, Jim, there's been a lot of allegations here today from some of your brothers about your meanness. So we want to know if this is true, especially your sister Peggy.
None of it's true. None of these things are true. I plan to retain an attorney.
Well, when you were young, what were some of the more memorable experiences you had with some of the members of your family?
Mostly that was difficult to get something to eat at the table with a lot of people. You had to really fight your way and to try to get something, because there were some that were just, always hungry like Nick. And you couldn't really, sometimes you wouldn't get anything to eat because he'd eat it all.
Nick would eat all the food.
No, you got this backwards. Every time somebody sits next to you on both sides of you, you always tell them to look over there and grab their plate. And you shove it back. Said, boy, you eat fast. And they always say, I don't remember eating. What was it? That's what the only thing I remember back is when you steal food away from everybody else.
Well, do you have any deep psychological problems like your sister Peggy about that nature?
Yes, I always was hungry.
Well,
I was a thin one in the family.
You were?
Yes, I always was fooled about everybody wanted me to look everywhere for something.
You were the gopher?
That's right.
Then did Martha take good care of you? She said she always did.
Well, she tried to be nice, but mostly, most of those efforts were ineffective.
Oh, are you bum? You bum.
Well, she says that you owe her something, either a hug or some money, about this toenail business. I don't remember that.
No, that's not true either. I cannot ever remember that happening. It's possible when I was asleep, she would come into my room and cut my toenails without me knowing about it. But other than that, I have no recollection of it.
Well, do you think maybe she sold the tub?
Mental block.
No, I think she just liked to cut people's toenails.
It's sad because I was having a major conference call. Toenails going through.
That
Mother made me do this. Excuse me while I choke to death.
Let me ask you something, Jim.
Yes, sir.
Did you ever get her back, like the time, I think, somebody told me this years ago, that painted somebody's toenails red, stuck the socks on it while the toenail polish was red?
No. Well, I supposed to have done that?
Well, somebody must have done it so they could get the socks off for a while.
No, it wasn't me.
You're saying it was Jim, then?
No, I ain't saying it's anybody, but I think on the toenail business, I think you got back at Martha.
Oh,
Or not?
Is that the way you think?
No. She
I don't-
painted your toenails red.
Well, now that's very possible.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. That's true.
Well, overall, though, you had a very good time when you were young. That's true, Jim.
I think that's right. That's right. If you were, I'll tell you another thing, if you could get to the dinner table quick enough and first, okay, then you were all right. Other than that, you probably had an awful difficult time getting enough to eat.
Well, we want to thank you both.
Well, I have a question from the
Oh,
audience.
we have a question from the audience.
Do you still like fried chicken?
Yes, I do. Very much so.
I would like you to relate who now does your toenails for you. Another question from the audience.
Turn her mic off, please. She's out of order.
No, I'm declining to answer that. That is an invasion of personal property.
There have been rumors. Which
That question
amendment?
is ruled out of order.
Let's get a ruling from the judge. No. All right, Dan. Do we have any other questions from the audience?
I want to know if he still cheats at Monopoly.
Cheats at Monopoly. Cheats at Monopoly. This
Easy
trip.
for you to say.
I resent that. What actually happened is, most of the time that I was bankrupt to the other side. They'd play Monopoly and they would resent that. Plus we would have side bets, you know, they were going to win and I would win and then they would not pay me. There's still some debts outstanding for those guys.
Do you have any idea as to the amount?
I suppose that's why I had to do the
It
total.
is a very,
That's right here.
it's a very
Debt.
substantial
That was
sum
your
that
debt.
goes in right now. I also want to put on the record right now while we're on television that I'm still owed attorney fees. We work here and advise the various members of the family and nothing's ever been paid.
Well, I want to thank
And yard work.
I want to thank these two from Championship Wrestling. And this is Akbar Crowbar and Tom Thumb. And we'll be signing off till next interview. Thank you. Continue the John Donahue Show this afternoon. We have two other members of the Wyrsch family here.
Both very distinct.
So that's for that.
One is the most mature one of the family.
Oh,
The
give
other
us a break.
is the youngest.
The youngest and the best.
Into the caboose, right?
I don't know who's going to take their sides on who's the most mature and who is.
I am.
Of course, we're talking only about these two interviewees here.
No choice.
Mother says that your kidney fell out.
I didn't need it anyway.
You better ask the microphone, John.
On the camera.
Oh, hi, Jim. Okay, hi.
That's why you have to speak up.
Yeah, hello.
If you went down in medical animals and had one of the very first kidney operations of any child.
That is correct. How old was I then, Mom? 8 months old.
You remember that well, don't
It
you?
sure did.
What a macho guy.
You remember terrorizing the pediatrics for him.
Yeah, in fact, that was the start of the field of pediatrics. I mean, that was the beginning. 1939 was the beginning of pediatrics. They were scared too, I suspect, too, about removing little baby's kidneys. I guess.
Did you recall?
Yes, I recall.
Well, after that,
I think the audience is getting bored by pediatrics.
we want to know that something about yourself. Actually, we want to know the best experience with any member of the Wyrsch family you had.
What a look.
What, John?
Well, we're going to define that to the Wyrsch family.
Oh, the Wyrsch family. Oh.
Your brothers and sisters.
The best experience? And
Well, the most fun experience, or who was the nicest to you?
Nobody.
Well, you're the oldest, you know. Nobody's supposed to be nice to you, aren't they?
Was that a given?
That's
Let's
written.
see, John Donahue, let me see how to answer that. Well, I remember playing ball with, who's the guy reading over here? Esquire. Yeah, right. I remember having a good time playing ball with him.
And after that, did you ever have any feuds with Jim, or did you have any feuds?
No, we just didn't talk to each other for a long time.
Is
Well, how
this
did Martha
true,
treat
Jim?
you?
Oh, a
Martha who?
question from the audience.
Your sister Martha, was Martha really nice to you?
I don't remember Martha. She,
Sharp,
oh, yeah, right. Yeah, she was very nice to me.
I thought we only had one lawyer in the family. This guy, you make a good witness.
You betcha. I just answer yes and no.
So Mary, being the youngest, of course you had some very real good experiences in your lifetime. What was the most memorable experience growing up?
Well, there were several. Ann and Susan talked about me acting like a dog, and I remember them very vividly in the pink room, taking a bowl, filling it with Cheerios, and saying, "Here, eat this." I remember you saying that.
I don't remember
You
that.
may think that I acted like a dog on my own accord, that it was, "Here, guys, $5 menu." by the dogs every now and
And
then,
you bark?
watching me.
And you bark ever since?
Yes, we bark at incoming people that we don't recognize.
Well, your brother Nick, that was Nick, but Nick treats you
Oh,
pretty
listen,
good.
I'll tell you, he's pretty mean.
Mean.
He's
Mean.
Is this true, Mother?
part of the time.
Mother, I thought I was your angel of the
Like when you
family.
used to try to take the rocking chairs and flip
No, I
them
was the
backwards in the rocking chairs in the family room and, oh, this is fun.
Nick flipped you over in the rocking chair.
See, being the youngest, I got the most of you. So.
Well, I heard that Nick taught you how to ride a horse. Is this true?
Well, partly. Yeah. Him and
He
Jim.
was the horse,
Him and Jim.
right?
Yeah, that's right, that's right. He got down on all fours, what can I say? No, that's Jim and Mike Meek. I mean, what? They're the ones that did it to me.
What did they
I have
do to
horses
you?
in my blood now.
Well, what was your earliest recollection of Lewis? You being the youngest and he being the oldest. I think there's 18 years difference.
Oh my
He's such
God.
a figure that you put on a pedestal.
What I remember is the tape. Listening to the tape, she
Oh,
used to
yeah.
sing home.
From Rome.
Rome.
That's right.
What do you remember about?
Just telling us what you've been doing, you know. That
All
was
those
all.
Italian names.
The
they
voice
pronounce
from
it.
the
What's he talking about?
That's right.
Who is he?
This masked man.
Who is this guy? I know he's my brother, but where shall I place him? Really? That's it.
Was Lewis always nice to you?
Yes, he was. No, I had more fun with Lois when he was at the Economic.
I understand.
Yeah, we had a good
I
time.
understand though, Mary, that Ann and Susan, and Peggy owe you more money than the entire family. Than the entire family. Wait a minute. Than the entire family owes Jim for leaving.
How do we figure this? How do you figure that? I want to know. I want an itemized
This is a story that I heard.
I think John has to include it on the bribes for washing the dishes.
Yeah, that's right,
I'll
John.
give you 50 cents.
Oh, I
if
forgot.
you wash
You
the
and Nick were so, I'll tell you, I'll give you $500. They just rushed in there.
Poor thing. Nick and I still
Yeah, but we never got paid, Mary. Mary, we never got
22
paid.
days and pull the same trick.
Hey, Mary.
We milked it out of you every now and then.
Mary, if we get all the money that he was going to pay us, we retired a couple of years ago.
My kids will be in college, you know, there's
Yeah.
college we pay for.
Speaking of education, let's talk about your education from kindergarten.
I never had any. You want to talk about education? Let's talk to Wood.
Heck
No, we
yeah.
want to talk about Mary's education first.
No, we don't want to talk about
We want to talk.
Hey, do you remember the time I had to go up and get Mary from school because
Which school?
her skirt was so short? Father Humphrey called Mother and
It was
said,
Leonard Chambers.
Leonard Chambers.
Leonard Chambers.
Father
Her
Humphrey.
undies are showing.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, I know you are.
Then she went back to school the next day with a dress and a pair of pants.
No, I had to wear my uniform then. You know, only one time a month we were allowed to wear a skirt.
I got one more
Anyway,
How short was the skirt?
Well, as far as he was concerned, it was real short.
It was in the era of the mini skirt.
She'd go out of the house with her shirt down below her knee. And on the way to school, sometimes she'd
Roll back.
The skirt would come up on the way to school.
That's right. Well,
What a
that was
phenomenon.
the 60s. What can I say?
Speaking of clothes,
That was just the 60s. Short with me.
Well, listen, is there anybody in the family that owes you any money that dropped
James R. Wyrsch Esquire owes me a $10.
that woke him up.
Well, there's a lot of people that seem to owe each other money.
How come we're never paid?
And nobody ever pays.
Oh, nobody. Put it on our
That's
tab.
our family
That
tag.
could be old to your mother and father maybe.
Well, now, the mother and father allegedly have some debt.
We didn't eat any of their food, did we?
I don't remember that
I
at
think
all.
we should all go on record as we're going to wipe the slate clean today.
I got it.
Everybody will be even.
Except for Jim.
Except for Jim.
Yeah.
Why would we leave Jim out? Do we owe him, or does he?
No, he owes us.
Oh. I see. Oh, we did it on Battery Day.
One square. There's a question from the audience.
I
Question.
have a question. Why Lewis felt compelled to go out and massacre a bunch of rabbits, hang them in the basement?
With Monsignor Westview.
That's right.
Oh,
Well,
no.
as you recall,
And who was it that threw up all night?
Me.
And who was the one that got covered?
Oh, you get cute.
Oh.
Yes, I guess because I was on the top bunk.
I want my question answered, please.
well, now that we know who puked on everybody. As you recall, at the time that I was trying to bring food.
Oh, no.
You were bringing home the bacon.
It happened to be rabbit.
Full of buckshot, if I recall.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
that tasted good.
As I recall, Dad loved it. Didn't you like that rabbit?
Rabbits, oh, yeah.
Well, how many people, asking Dad this question, how many people ate that rabbit?
Not
Nobody
me.
ate rabbit besides you.
They sprayed poor little things. We went out at Easter.
Poor little things, they were hanging on my clothesline.
The rabbits were hanging from your clothesline in the basement?
Yes.
Lewis did it.
I
And
killed
Lewis did it.
And Lewis did it.
Oh, another question from the audience.
We have another question.
I want to know how many windows Lewis broke in the neighborhood with a baseball.
Oh.
The truth comes out.
Yes. Is the microphone live?
It's
I'm
working.
afraid.
Zoom right in, please.
We have a live eye interview here.
What was the original question again? The original question is how many
windows did you
I,
break?
you know, that was due to my prowess as a
You what?
Handed.
kid. It was such power, and I remember breaking it. Was it Dr. Dillard?
Dr. Dillard's window.
Well,
Apartment house.
in the apartment house behind 519 East Madison, but we did not run. We went and knocked on the door, or I had Jim go knock on the door.
Way to go, Jim.
Attaboy, Jim.
Way to go, Jim. He was a good talker.
Somebody, I don't remember breaking very many dogs. I don't know if I even broke that one, but that's the one
How
I
many
remember.
feet?
Or two.
372.
I have another question.
Well, I do want to say one thing about Lewis's hitting is that the windows that were broken most often were the ones on the apartment house next door.
Oh, God.
And the ones on our house, and the only way to break those is with a foul ball. Therefore, it didn't take a lot of prowess on hitting with a foul ball.
Hey, I have a
We have another
question.
I'm
Lady in the green shirt.
The older woman goes
I want to know if Mary Elizabeth ever remembers going to church and trying to take her clothes off all the time.
Ron's sister wasn't me.
And getting
Weekends
Not
out.
only church.
Susan, you remember what kind of church this was?
At least
No.
I was in church. I mean, you know, at least I was there.
well, and every time we wore dark clothes, she had white shoe polish from head to toe on it.
And look at Mom, she's a green.
She's a green.
He one day to church. He always thought he started fresh out 2 or 3 years ago.
No.
I said,
Out
"George,
towards
you
you."
Oh, no, she'll be fine.
Thanks, no. Who's the other one?
When she was 2 or 3, she took her clothes off.
That serves you right. Oh, no wonder Monsignor Westies like me so well.
And
Monsignor Grover, though, that was preaching, was right in front of Monsignor Grover.
he came home and said, Mary, glad to take her coat off.
That's what you get for trying to put clothes on me and stick me in churches, but you know.
Oh, yeah,
We have not heard any questions or comments from this group over here. Do we have any from Martha?
Yes, I want to know what the problem between Lewis and Jim was that caused them to have to both do the dishes, and Lewis had torn pajamas.
I believe it was Jim I don't remember.
Oh, I do.
Oh, what
You
was
do?
Remember that picture and both of you trying to get your ball caps on? You got torn pajamas
that it was because they fought first, who was gonna wash and who's gonna dry, and
Lewis lost.
How many feet we had, Tom?
I had to watch.
405. Any other questions?
Lewis, do you remember the time that you were in 8th grade and I was in 1st grade or 2nd? I don't remember 1st, Martha tells me.
that's fine.
And I didn't eat all my lunch and I threw it in the trash, and the 8th grade teacher marched me out to my oldest brother and said, Susan didn't eat her lunch, and Lewis went, so? I remember that very vividly. I do. It was funny. I mean, it's funny now, and I was scared to death of Lewis.
We don't have enough
I didn't know
time.
what he was going to do.
We don't have enough time this evening to go through all the married boyfriends.
Whoa!
You-
I know, they just
Back
locked
there.
Oh, wait a minute, we don't have any questions on John yet.
Any questions?
We had a few, they didn't record.
Oh, you have to read it.
Oh, I have been grilled repeatedly. Plus, we have to have Ann and Susan back.
Back, okay.
Do I
So we'll
say-
sign off and have another
By popular demand.
commercial from our brother Jim about his law practice. Thank you for that commercial message from James R. Wyrsch attorney. We know it was so short you didn't see it, but if you want to give him any law business, that would be fine. For the third time today, we have the middle children.
The unstable middle children.
We have the middle child syndrome, except there's 3 middle children.
Here
So
he
we have
is.
3 middle child syndrome. Let's see, I'm 7, you're 6,
I'm
and
6.
5th. So we want to tell you today all of the mental problems we have for being middle children.
I am so wacky. And I'm so wacky due to this brother of mine and this sister.
I always took care of you.
Oh, yeah, I took care of you.
I
Okay?
thought the middle child syndrome was a problem. The older ones and the younger ones always got all the attention. The middle children never got any.
No.
Therefore, you have the middle child syndrome.
Oh, yeah, that sounds good.
And always.
Poor Ed. Let's get the violins out for
No,
Ed.
I never got any attention. I was always
That's right.
put upon, and you all were mean to me.
Well, I remember a lot of people. I remember some nuns and some priests and some parents that asked me why I did such a thing. And usually, the reason I did whatever I did to get in trouble is because it was a lot of fun. And I really didn't have any other reasons for doing it. And our class was a very fun-loving class. Like Susan's class was a very
We
fun-loving
had a
class.
good time.
And Ann's was kind of the start of the fun-loving class and the rebellious
But she liked
era
our
of the late
classes
60s and early
better.
70s.
Early
Anyway.
60s.
No, middle. Middle.
There we go with these middle.
Everything's middle.
Everything's middle with it. So you see, now you can, we have an older sister that has some deep psychological problems and we have middle child syndrome. So Ann, we have to go through this again.
What was that?
How nice you were. Don't tell us again how nice you were. You be quiet and tell us
Should
yourself.
we get sick now?
And everybody picked on me.
Everybody picked on you.
Oh, it's
But
terrible.
you were always good.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Okay, wait a minute. Now, I would like to have Susan tell us her rebuttal. Go ahead.
Well, I'll say this much. Ann and I were always played together. We had the same bed. And I would always, we would get in the same trouble, but when Mother or Dad walked in the room, Ann would go, I didn't do anything. And I would get spanked, and Ann would, it was always poor Ann, she's so fragile.
Would she throw you and laugh at
Oh, she would go, ha ha. She did.
you? Do you have any mental problems because of that? Fire back in the batteries. We're back here at the final interview on July the 12th, right?
1986.
We haven't put that date.
I am 30 years old.
And who is this person and what birthday was hers?
1846.
Whoa! baby boom baby.
Right. You
Yeah.
were a lot of fun.
I am still a lot of fun.
Well, we were talking earlier about being middle children.
Yes.
Most people just have one middle child, but they have to have three
A
middle
few.
children. More than one.
Of course, John was the worst middle child. Ann and I tried to corral him. Yes.
Well, I always thought I wasn't the worst, I just had the most fun.
No, no, no,
Everybody was jealous.
no,
They
no.
said,
You were the worst,
John. You
No, you were pretty,
I tried by,
challenging.
by my perfect example.
What a baby.
Yeah,
Yes, you were a
and,
shining example.
That was bad.
I learned a lot from you.
Yeah.
Child.
yeah, Ann was always Miss Innocent.
That's right.
Fragile.
I would.
Fragile.
So Nick, it is true that Nick came in and tried to
know.
teach you all that night.
Oh, yeah, yeah. In fact, he liked that double bed, but you know, Ann occupied most of it. Most of the bed. Were bones.
Well, you all graduated about the same time from St. Agnes High School, didn't you?
1 year apart, 1964 for me. Well, she is a year older than I am.
1964, 1963, and me 1966.
She was the first homecoming queen of St. Agnes High School.
Oh, yes. And somebody
Yeah.
took her crown away from her, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Did they lose that record of where she was the first homecoming queen?
No,
I think that was Father Winkleman that took that away.
Winkleman. You know, the one that was so nice to John?
I was with on that. I didn't have good legal representation at that time.
You know, you saw him in the bank, wasn't
No,
it?
I never seen him. I hadn't seen him.
You were the one that saw him in the bank when you were there.
No, that night I had, but I
Didn't Father Winkleman get you in a headlock?
No, he never did. In fact, he never threw me out of school. He just said, you can't go back to health class. He says, I've got to. He says, because if you don't go back to health
You
class,
can't
you
graduate.
can't graduate.
Yeah.
This smiles today. He
Father
thought that was the
Winkleman
greatest thing.
runs St. Agnes High School at that time. Oh, I'm sure he
Well, I never said
did.
that to his face.
Oh,
I wish
yeah.
he did.
Yeah. I'm sure you did, because that's when you went to Parkview and graduated, right?
Right.
All right.
Oh, yeah, I had to. I didn't have any choice. I didn't get the health credit. I wouldn't
Of course,
graduate.
it wasn't because you were this sweet, innocent child.
He told me it's because I was class president and he didn't like class president.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding?
He was a weirdo.
We
Who,
started
John or
out
the
with
priest?
120 freshmen and they graduated 36.
Is that
And he
right?
was proud of the fact that he got rid of all
John
the
wore all the
36.
riffraff.
All the riffraff.
We graduated 64 in the class of 64.
Yeah. You did
Right.
You graduated what?
How many years
So
did it
2
take you?
years later, you graduated 36.
36. And
How
had
did you have?
a freshman class of 120.
44, 48.
How come we were so big? I guess we were the best class.
You were the baby boomer.
Baby boomers,
I think we should
yeah.
talk about John's nightlife during his
We
early,
don't have enough time.
Early 20s.
no, early high school.
Early high school?
Laughing, I want to hear this.
And at what age he learned how to drive?
Oh,
8th grade.
8th grade, John learned how to drive. Was it a tractor?
Must have been.
The
No, the
truth
big
comes
tractor
out.
was a 1958 Pontiac.
That was Dad's blue and white 58 Pontiac. That's right.
58
You know, we used to put those on railroad tracks and go down it because it had this
Because it was just wide enough. to-
wide enough to fit over a railroad track.
Oh, that came from my hand.
And Bill Welsh, cousin Bill Welsh,
Good old cousin.
used to go down. We put the car on the railroad track and go downtown Springfield. He'd sit on top of the car sounding like a train.
Right.
And he could do it. He used to sound like a siren all the time on the back of a motorcycle and pull cars over.
Oh, was Dad ever nice to you, Susan?
Dad was always good. Mom was always good. I don't ever remember
Did they ever spank you?
with a ping pong paddle.
Oh, is this right?
That's why they went down.
Okay.
Easter outfits and got all dirty in the alley. Now, you remember Dad and his big wide board?
I never did see it.
I never saw the board, but I remember
With
the
nails.
nails in the end.
Well, the thing is, your dad said, if you don't straighten out, I'm gonna put your head
Between your ears.
Ears.
That used to scare me to death.
It took them how many years to realize
Oh.
your head was just.
Well, yes, but I think I was about 8 or 9 before I figured it out. I tried that on my own oldest daughter, and she figured it out at about age
The
3 or
first
4.
time. No, mine figured it out the first
Well, I'm
time.
not too
Didn't
short.
it make you feel indisposed?
Yeah.
I just feel very imbecilic, that's true.
Now, I told Nancy that the first time she went, but it's already between my ears. And I go, oh, gosh, that didn't work.
Has anybody talked about the Saturday morning movies that we used to go downtown?
Oh, free
Oh my God.
food.
And everybody,
Free bread. Free bread.
squash. By the time that,
I remember the free bread. You could bring it home under your arm, and there would be bread
Well,
hanging
you
on
and
either
Ann and
side.
I always used to go together for some reason.
And down the blacks would always sit on the second floor.
Yeah. And
And they would
Fast
throw
Night
things
Park,
along the
walking through the cemetery to go swimming free in the morning.
Fast Night Park.
Fast Night Park, I remember that.
Lord, you were lucky to do that.
I know. Of course, John was terrible. He never would listen to us.
That is true, I never did
He
that.
never listened to us.
I just kind of nod, okay.
Yeah, and you used to hit me all the time.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did, I remember.
And then Susan would hit me.
Peggy, do you have any questions of the panel?
I know,
She always acted innocent.
I wanna know why Ann fell down, broke her collarbone and blamed it on me.
I think it's because it was true, is this correct?
I think it was because Ann was just a klutz.
Then they made me, they sat there and ate dinner and made me lay on the couch.
When I split my head open, I almost bled to death.
Mary, do you have any questions?
Well, the last question didn't get answered in the last interview because it didn't tape. I wanna know when they're gonna grow up.
Never grow up.
That is
Never.
That is not any fun.
And why they turned me into a dog so young?
You, a dog, nobody had anything to do with that.
With the bowl of churros on the floor.
That was Peggy when Grandpa was becoming a Knight of St. Gregory.
Oh.
And Peggy decided to have an Indian massacre hit the house. And she spread ketchup all over our clothes.
And tied us up.
And tied us under the furniture. I remember that. You remember that?
Yes, I do remember that.
Actually, it was.
I remember that.
Get it straight, it was a dedication of St. John's Hospital.
Oh, dedication of St. John's
Let's
Hospital.
get the story straight.
Well, but that's beside the point what it was. Peggy poured ketchup all over us. And tied us
Tied us to the furniture. And made us stay there and say, lay still.
We want Mom and Dad to think we're dead. No, we did. I remember that.
I do remember that. That was funny.
And Peggy was good at bows and arrows.
Oh,
She
yeah.
used to cut down all your trees and make bows and
Like
arrows.
Indian massacre.
Well, I think we better conclude these interviews for tonight.